Orphans who didn't get adopted. What happened and how is life now? Not me, but my father. His mother left him at Christmas time when he was 8. She said she needed black-eyed peas and never came back. To this day he gets sick looking at them. He grew up in an orphanage with his 4 brothers, moved to Nashville at 16 and went to a newly desegregated school in a horrible area of town. He was one of the first white kids in the high school. He graduated, went to community college and started a tree nursery farm. He was a xenophobic alcoholic and was abusive in every way to the family. Then he had a wreck that the doctors say he shouldn't have recovered from. He's nicer sometimes and doesn't drink. He said he felt flames licking at his feet while unconscious. Now he has almost zero short-term memory, sort of like Memento but not as extreme. He writes everything down in a notebook every day. His kidneys are failing now and he's not looking good. He's unmarried and bitter. I don't really like him or love him. I understand where he came from, but I can't just unfeel those early years and forget what I saw and felt. I think the only thing I feel for him is pity. I feel like crying just saying that, but I really do only feel sorry for him. I don't hate or dislike him. I just don't care either way. It's pity. It's pity that gets him a call at holidays and pity that makes me answer the phone. He has no one else on this earth except me, and he only has me because I pity him. I grew up in state care from about age 9 to 17. I lost my father when I was about 6 years old to suicide and I don't remember him much. My mom sort of went downhill from there. Drugs, bad boyfriends, the whole 9 yards. I went into state care and started my extended stay with the state. I bounced between about 12 different homes before getting myself stuck in a dreaded group home for at-risk youth. I quickly about pulled my crap together and applied to a private foster care program called Casey Family Programs. I finally got a shot at a little normalcy before aging out of the system. I now work as a software engineer and am doing pretty well, all things considered. Have a great relationship with my foster adopted family and even some halfway decent relationship with my birth mother. Today I'm doing good. Unfortunately, the little foster kid in the back of my head is always ready for things to fall apart. This is so weird for me to talk about because I've never really thought before about the fact that legally I don't have a family. My parents were not stable enough to raise me. There was drug abuse as well as physical shaming and emotional abuse going on, so I was sent around to different relatives until my aunt and uncle decided to take in me and my sister. But they never actually decided to adopt me, and I'm not sure why. Anyways, I ended up being physically shamed, abused in that home too. Not to mention the fact that we would make frequent trips to visit my biological parents where even more crazy crap would happen. It's taken me years in therapy to realize how fricked up and abusive my family really is, and my entire life I've felt like it was my responsibility to just deal with and not be a burden to anyone else by showing emotion. My biological parents both ended up passing away after I went off to college, so I guess I really am an orphan. I am still close to my aunt and my sister, and I talk to one of my brothers sometimes, but I feel like none of them have ever really understood what's going on in my life, and for some reason I'd like to keep it that way. I mean, I've literally had my brother tell me that I straight up shouldn't talk about the abuse I went through and that they don't want to hear any details because it's too sad for them. Anyways, I'm just thankful that I'm able to afford college and that I'm alive. I never got adopted, but the state surrendered me back to my parents right before high school. That was about 7 years ago. All of my observations are from the Texas foster care system, but they should generally be indicative of the systems across the country. Federally, they are supposed to be organized similarly. The system is tough in some places, absolutely lovely in others. I had a good experience in the foster care system, FCS, but some kids don't. Generally, we all just knew that anyone who made it past about 8 without getting adopted was pretty strongly not likely to get adopted. A lot of kids get to be a bit bitter and angry that they never get adopted, and that absolutely kills their likelihood to get adopted. There's also a fair amount of racism amongst the middle school and older kids at bigger group homes where the parents don't work to make it feel like a family, but it seems to generally be against the white kids, who are a minority in the foster care system. You can always tell which parents really love being foster parents and which are either burnt out or don't really love it. The ones who love raising kids always keep their homes disciplined, and they really will make you realize how lucky you are to have them. Just like the good teachers in school, good foster parents in the circuit have a good reputation. I can't speak for other states, but Texas has a good system. A friend of mine was removed from his home as a kid. His dad was in white-collar jail and his stepmother beat him. A neighbor called the cops when they found my friend half naked under a mailbox trying to keep the snow off himself in winter. Dad refused to give up rights. Mother, who took off years ago, refused. So he was stuck in a group home until he was 18. He said it sucked, but was better than being beaten or not fed. At 18 they gave him the boot onto the streets. He got a job, an apartment, and lost it shortly after the landlord kicked him out for having a friend over. He lived with us a year after that. My family wanted him to have a safe place to grow up a bit more and breath before hitting the real world. He struggled for a few years, but he got his college degree, got married, had a kid, and is doing well now. He always was bitter that his parents wouldn't give up their rights. He could have had a proper home instead of belonging to two people who forgot about him and don't even see him. I didn't live in a foster home. I was placed into a group home after me and my brother were removed from our home for child abuse. So I don't know if I would be counted as an orphan, but I will share anyway. I was removed when I was 17, but I have been in state custody a few times for child abuse on my mother's side. I lived in Georgia, and since I was so close to outgrowing the system, they offered me an independent living program where DFCs would help me get an apartment and a job, but I was placed back at my house right before I turned 18. I have been on my own since I have been 18. April, I had no job, just kicked out of my home, and no ID and no license. And the first thing DFCs did when I called them was meet me face to face and tell me I was no longer in the system but to call them if I needed anything else. While I was still in custody, I was college bound, and the most DFCs did for me was financially hinder me to the point that I might not be able to attend college this fall. After filling out my FAFSA for college, I was awarded the fullest support possible by the state, but when I was audited for my fall semester they wanted a lot of papers from the IRS and DFCs, but the IRS won't respond to my faxes, calls, or even online. DFCs is even worse. I had almost 5 different caseworkers while in the system, and now every time I call DFCs about help with my audit they don't pick up my calls. No representative will help me, and basically have cut off all support and contact. So now I have no way to get a loan for school because I have no family, no way to get a job because I start school soon, and getting a job now would mean I can't go to school this semester. And my only way of going to college is either DFCs help me with the audit or I win the lottery and pay for my first semester out of pocket. TLDR, not doing so well. Find the closest office and sit in there every day bugging people until you have the information you need. If someone says they can't help you, ask for their manager and don't leave until you get help from someone. Don't take their crap. Don't take another phone number. If they want you to meet with someone else, you have them call while you are there and set up an appointment. My parents got by but never had much money. They divorced when I was 10. My dad was a Vietnam vet and an alcoholic. A tough combo. My mom was perfect, she wasn't, but that's how I remember her. My dad drank himself to death when I was 15, and then my mom had a heart attack and died in her sleep when I was 16, the day after Thanksgiving. I freaking hate Thanksgiving. But I was lucky. A friend's parents offered to take care of me until I graduated high school, and my aunt and uncle, legal guardians, loved me a lot. They tried to make themselves a presence, but didn't want to force the mom and dad thing down my throat either. The relationship with my friend really suffered because he felt I got preferential treatment when it came to discipline. I did. I stayed out late at night, skipped dinner frequently. She was a terrible cook. My mom was freaking gourmet, and generally acted like kind of an butthole for the 2 years that I was there. His mom used to get really pissed at me when I would show up 5 minutes after curfew and shrug it off. The upshot of staying in the same school was I met a girl, we hit it off and started dating, and her family was really good to me. They fed me good food and treated me with respect and without pity. I really liked them too. We stayed together through college, moved in together, and got married. I started working for her father. Then he got sick. Really sick. He had a super advanced stage of bowel cancer and had a few years left, if that. He asked if I wanted to take over his business, even though I had only been working for him for a year or so. I said yes. and when he died a year later I took over. Anyway, life turned out okay. I kept the business afloat and bought a house with my wife after a few years. Now we've got 2 kids, and things are looking pretty good. I miss my parents a lot though. I wish they could see their grandkids. I'm an orphan and went to live in a foster home over the years. Around 200 other kids came and went. It affects you not having a real family. I am still in contact with my twin sister who had the same date of birth as me and my little brother that is 13 years my junior, but I took him under my wing because his parents died in a crash as well. I'm not going to say life was easy, it wasn't. There were some mental health issues. I spent some time in a mental hospital but came out, got into university, got my degree, went to work in the private sector, done well there. No one seemed to care about my mental health past. No one asked about my parents or life growing up. I now work in a university after the crash of 2009. I am married with 2 kids which I love more than life. I will do everything I can to show them how much I love them and protect them from the bad in this world. All in all, it wasn't a great start to my life, but you learn from everything and more importantly you can grow. I was in foster care since shortly after birth. No father in the picture, never met the guy to this day, although I have been presented opportunities, and mom did not have any education. From Mexico. Have an older brother that got into trouble frequently which kept both of us bouncing from foster home to foster home. At the age of 6 we moved to a home where I would stay from then to aging out. Felt like part of the family. Foster. And thought things were good. Very close to my 18th birthday I was asked by my social worker if I had somewhere I could stay if needed. I told her yes, and I was told they had new foster kids coming in a few days. Moved out that weekend. After spending 12 years with these people, was not given any kind of goodbye. Alright, I'm taking off then. Alright. Tried work my way up job ladders after dropping out of community college at 19/20. Lost a job and tried to apply places with a lot of experience and could not get a job to save my life. After a 10-year hiatus, went back to community college and transferred to a 4-year, starting my senior year, which I plan to continue with a master's degree and hope to go into school counseling. Would love to make an impact on what I consider the most important years of development, middle school. I also lived in home for children, a children's home as you will. I ran away from an abusive family, taking my younger brother with me. Since before I can remember, my mother was a drug abuser and an alcoholic, thus equaling neglect and abuse. Schooling was not a thing that she cared about or her children's well-being. We skipped around in direct relation to her skipping from a man's bed to bed. I ended up teaching myself how to read and diving into literature to escape. Eventually enough was enough once I started getting wise to self-independence and ran. I was 12. We lived in a few neighborhoods that had an abundance of fruit trees. Stealing to survive, drinking out of hoses, etc. People got wise and called the police. They scooped us up and put us into CPS custody. They moved us halfway house to halfway house, then finally to a 24-hour facility for about a year to determine our temperament as children. Once they assessed us, they sent us to CHAS. It's a facility run but families male and female and then an alternate. I saw a lot of kids phase in, phase out and age out of care. The 2 hardest things about it was never having the sense of belonging, as if they truly did not care. School was a nightmare. I started in 7th grade never knowing another child. I was backplaced because of the lack of education. Supposed to be in 8th. Making friends was hard. They saw us as different, alienated us because we were from the home. I tried to fit in, played varsity football for 4 years. Running away makes you fast, it seems. Had a job and was likable, but it never worked. I graduated, went to college. Couldn't afford it, had to put my education on hold. Joined the military, served for 6 years and 3 tours in war zones. I'm currently working on my bachelor's in business. In retrospective, my biggest problem I think is the inability to love and trust. I care deeply for people, mostly my friends, which I treat as if family. But overall I care out on top. For the people that still struggle, dig deep, find something you love, hold up to that and use it to help you grow. I apologize for the rant. Talking about it all helps. Mom died when I was 15. Dad left when I was a baby. Due to being so close to 18, I was never put into foster care, and that was probably the best possible outcome for me. I learned to work hard to get what I needed instead of what I wanted. Lived in a few abandoned houses at first, then rented a crappy place, then got a better job, then a better place, and so forth. I taught myself programming 10 years ago and now have a wife, a child, and a pretty nice house. I've traveled the world, seen awesome things, and not so awesome things, and I chuck up all bad experiences to the ever-growing pool of knowledge that I consider the only form of wealth which helps me in future decisions and endeavors. I think the most important thing for anyone who is always in my position is to remember that you always need to look ahead and never behind. Remember the things that put you on your path, but don't let them make you who you are or stop you from becoming who you want to become one day. Just because life sucks right now doesn't mean it's going to suck forever. Work hard, learn as much as you can, and don't let yourself become content with a bad situation. Some advice about letting it out and keeping it in. If you're going to tell people about your past, try to highlight the good aspects of it and save the worst aspects of it for the people you've been with known for a while. This does two things. 1. It doesn't scare away people upon first meeting them, and 2. After a while you seem to only vividly remember the good parts of your past and not the bad simply because it's your go-to when you think about it. Mind over matter and all that jazz. Keep yourself level. I wasn't an orphan, but I almost wish I was. My brother and I were taken from our parents as children, both drug addicts. We stayed in foster care for about 6 months. The mother was nice, the father was borderline abusive. He had a baby monitor in every room. If we made any noise at all he would call us downstairs and make us stand in the corner. He would do it all night. He would lie to workers about how we broke his stuff so we shouldn't deserve gifts from my grandmother. He would literally steal our stuff from us. Later mom failed the drug test at the hearing, so dad got custody. Dad went back to drugs and we were basically his house slaves. We couldn't go to a friend's house if we didn't massage his back, or make him dinner, or sometimes just straight no for no reason. So the only one caring for us was my 90-year-old great-grandmother the three of us lived with. She passed eventually. Shortly later dad vanished and now my illegal drug-free mother had custody of us. The problem is alcohol can be just as bad as illegal drugs. Been living away from family since 18. 6 years I've been free from the constant worrying of neglect, worrying about food, worrying if I can or can't do something at the whims of others. So I was put into foster care around 7 and spent about a year and a half there. The horror stories are true. Physical abuse, mental abuse, neglect, foster parents using the money for stuff other than you, and yeah, the physical shaming abuse is real too. I was adopted by a very religious family, Roman Catholic. It was intense. They weren't really ready I think for a kid with my past and it was 7 years of struggle. I really never fit in and eventually they gave me back after the dad struggled to maintain his sobriety because I was trying to understand the religion and that was the only way he could stay off the bottle. So I was considered a threat and the state put me into group homes. I was in a group home for troubled youths from 14 to 17 in which I lived alongside kids with firebug issues, depression, anger violence issues, kids beating each other over little things like someone turned off a light too soon, and physical issues. These were the kids that got in trouble for like touching their cousins or siblings and stuff, so they were super fun to live around. When I turned 17 I was put in a group home for older kids and was able to start going to public school. I ended up aging out of the group home. The state was going to set me up in an apartment with another guy in the home, but he went AWOL and they never went through with the apartment. So I came home one day and all my stuff was in boxes bags outside. They just kicked me out because the state wasn't going to pay for me anymore. I ended up having to drop out of school to work under the table paid jobs to eat. I couch surfed and slept in friends' cars for a few months until I made a great friend whose mom basically dusted me off and slapped some sense into me. 9 months later I had my get in a corporate gig. 10 years later I am a father of a 2-year, about to be married, to the mother, don't get crazy, a homeowner, and have moved up pretty well in the company I work for. I manage some social club, volunteer in the community, and actually help out with kids in the city I live in who are aging out of foster care by setting them up in nice apartments and teaching them the life skills they will need to get by. It's been a crazy journey, but in the end I have done a lot of growing and appreciate a lot more than I think I would have if I had not been through it all. Does kicked out at 17 count? I was in a broken family for quite a while. Mum cheated on dad but didn't tell anyone. We found out a lot later, after the lies started breaking. Dad was a successful businessman who, later in life, ended up coveting money over being a good father, became very materialistic, and it was unbearable. Even to this day, every gift or favor he offers comes with some bull's baggage. Parents divorced. To cover up her shame, my mom turned to the church, in lieu of her sins, and became a radical Christian. Judged everything I did. I rebelled, drank, smoked, did drugs, didn't listen. Mom got pee and kicked me out. No phone, a shopping bag of clothes, and my longboard. Rode around all night until I found a train to sleep on. I stayed there for a week until a friend took me in for a bit. Continued my job at a supermarket, but used that money to go college in Pittsburgh. Racked up exorbitant amounts of dead partying, joining a frat, and failing out with no degree. Moved to Florida on a whim after that. Started working in an IT shop as a low-tech. Was always good with computers. Then got a job at Dell, working phone tech support. Broke up with a very unhealthy girlfriend. Prompted me to run away again, something I became very good at. Moved to Alaska on a whim. Got a job working for a homeschooling district, pseudo school, as a tech, which gave me the ability to apply and get a job at the university as a technician there. Now I am the student supervisor and make a very decent living for myself. Far away from bad relationships, although I still maintain a relationship with mom and dad to a degree, and have good friends. I love my life now. I have no plans on leaving anytime soon. Have a great, healthy relationship now. I just got a promotion too. Seriously though, if you need work, or need to start over, come to Alaska. A lot of money is here, and the majority of people are transplants. We are all family. My best friend came to town at 14 with a baby to live with a foster family. She and her father used M, and had both contracted Hep C from sharing needles. She did so well in school and was a wonderful mother, until her bio mom moved close by. Then she got hooked on pain pills from her mom. When young into the system as a minor with a baby, that baby really isn't yours. She wound up leaving the baby with the photo family when he was about 5 to go back to drugs and an ex. I can still remember visiting the boy after she left. He would rip his hair out and tear up the walls. She since had, and lost custody of 3 more children. Her firstborn son was adopted by a local youth preacher and his wife a year ago though, and now he has 3 brothers and an awesome mom and dad. Thank God for them, or I don't know what that sweet boy would have done with himself. Side note, original foster mom in this story photoed 70+ kids in our county out of her funnel-wide trailer house over the years. Ms. Mary has been a mother to anyone who needed one, and was even honored by the city. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.